Hello, my name is Allison Moody, and God has done so many things in my life, but I believe that the main theme that He wants me to share with you all today is just that His presence is real. You're able to experience Him in a real way, and He taught me that through the most unlikely of circumstances that I could have ever imagined. Okay, so to explain what I mean by being able to experience the presence of the Lord, I feel like I need to go back to my earlier childhood days to explain what my ideas of Him were. I always knew who He was, and I also had, my parents were divorced, but my dad's mother, when I would go and visit him on the weekends, she would take me to church with her, and they were always so very loving, and I was just always told how much Jesus loved me. But back at home, when I lived with my mom, we went to the Catholic Church. And it's very different between Southern Baptist and Catholicism. But anyway, I always had something to bring to the confessional. And so I felt like God was just this mad judge that was like, when are you going to get it right? So I never really understood, I couldn't ever rationalize in my head the difference between God's judgment and His love for me. So this very much became real to me when I was in my early teens. My very first sexual experience was a rape, and it left me feeling very dirty and unclean, yet I was also exposed to my peers in a way that made it look like it was my fault, and I was judged, and some really nasty things were said about me, and I just felt really dirty. One summer I went to stay with my father, and when I was with him, I went to this Christian camp. And at this camp, I saw all these teenagers who just loved the Lord. They loved one another. And I had just come out of this traumatic experience, and I thought, you know, I want the Lord to clean my life up. I want what they have. I want these friendships. I don't want to feel dirty anymore. And I remember sitting on the sofa at my dad's house. I was by myself, and I literally just cried out to the Lord from a broken place, like, Lord, if you're real, would you save me? And what I had been taught as a kid was that He was going to come and live inside of me. And I couldn't rationalize that. I was like, is there going to be this little man inside, like cooking dinner and all that kind of stuff? But I do believe that in that sincere broken place, when I cried out to Him, He heard me. Because the next several years, even into my early 20s, I just began to rebel. I was very sexually promiscuous, got into drugs, hung out with, you know, the heathen crowd, as my parents would call it. But on the inside, I was so desiring. I longed for something else. I longed for acceptance. I longed for the love of God. So flash forward to my early or mid-30s, actually. I'm married. I have a beautiful child, great job, great career, beautiful home. I like to say it was kind of a Pinterest perfect life. But on the inside, I was so deeply torn, because I knew that I just wasn't who God created me to be. Because I do believe in the moments when I was 14 years old and I cried out to Him for Him to save me, He did. Yet I didn't have a context for the real Lord. It was all religion. And so in my early 30s, I got a diagnosis of cancer. And in the middle of the night of that day, it was actually a Friday the 13th, I remember wrestling with the Lord, and I remember He spoke to me. It wasn't a feeling. I literally heard the voice of God, and He told me that this is not a death sentence. And in my type A personality, my response was, He's real. Like this God that I'd learned about now was in my hospital room speaking to me. And my response was, what do I do? Like, well, Lord, what do I do? Because that's what I thought. I needed to do something to earn this promise that He'd given to me. And He told me that I just need you to have faith. And he spoke the words Matthew 17:20 to me. And I knew the Bible, but I wasn't like a real, good student of the Word. And so when I looked it up, and it's the verse that if you have the faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. And I thought, okay, I can do that. I can have the faith of a mustard seed. Well, what the Lord said was true, because I'm sitting here today, and it was an arduous, gruesome process. But what He taught me in the middle of that was, I literally couldn't strive for him. I was in a hospital bed. I couldn't, there were times where I couldn't even get up and walk. I couldn't even get myself to the restroom. But in those moments, his love was ever present. And even though I couldn't work for him or strive for his love, he showered it upon me and showed me what grace really is. And that's why I say he is real. His presence is, I was able to experience his presence not only in his voice, but in the wee moments when it was just me and him, in those dark, dark places that I would go within myself because my body and my flesh had failed. And I knew all the dirty stuff from my past, and yet he still loved me. And now I can say he has redeemed all that the enemy has tried to steal. I'm able to see my daughter. She's going to graduate this next year. I'm still married, and I'm alive and well and able to hopefully give you a glimpse of his glory.